My name is Todd Burnett. I'm president of Saddleback College, and thank you very much for being here for this very exciting event today. In a few hours from now, you are all going to be uplifted, motivated, excited, enthused about not only the presentations that are coming forward, but hopefully about yourselves and what you can do individually and collectively to really help our society and using a social entrepreneurship model. You may know that this is the first international social entrepreneurship competition in the world, believe it or not, folks. And that's very exciting. We're very proud that Saddleback College, Orange County, and all of our outreach partners were able to help us to pull this off. Now, what is social entrepreneurship? Now, many of you in here, of course, know what that is. You study it. You're here because of it. But not everybody really is clear. But the Stanford has actually come up with 5 elements of social entrepreneurship. The first element is it's tenacious leadership with a pragmatic vision. The second element is the vision must address a clear social problem. Third, the solution changes systems, not just symptoms. Fourth, the solution prioritizes social impact over financial gain. And finally, the model generates a sustainable funding stream. You may know that our competition, even though we're the first, we say international, national competition, we are not the first social entrepreneurship competition in the country. Actually, the first one and major competition was done in the state of Michigan. And we follow this Michigan model, and you'll hear a little bit more about this in the future. But Michigan is already in their second year. They're about 3 weeks behind us in their competition, but they did it last year. And last year, they were very successful. They had over 150 business plans submitted. They had finalists just like we have here today. And what's really exciting is that their finalists are in the investor stage, and they've already received upwards of $1 million in financial investment for their ideas. I want to give you a little bit of background of how this came about. First of all, the idea started back in the fall, in the summer, when we heard about the Michigan model. You're going to meet Rich Taffel in a minute, who's one of our guest judges here, who is the founder and owner of Public Squared, who's one of those who led the Michigan model for that state. And that's why we brought him on board to help us with this competition. We then put together a phenomenal team at Saddleback College of faculty, staff, and administrators and community members to put together this competition. On February 19th, we officially announced the competition. On February 26th, we had a competition kickoff luncheon that many of you attended over at Saddleback College. And then after that time, we had various webinars, coaching sessions, online and in person, to help people with their applications to be able to submit today. And then April 18th was the deadline for all the submission of the applicants. And then between April 5th, 18th, and May 5th, we had a group of evaluators review and score all of the submissions. Then on May 5th, we named the 11 finalists who you're going to hear from today in our presentation. Well, what happens after today? Today's exciting. You're going to get to hear for the first time the wonderful proposals, presentations, efforts, and ideas that these folks have. After today, over the next several months, they are going to be working with private coaches, with support at Saddleback, with Public Squared, with themselves, to get their presentations ready to be presented to actual investors, social impact investors. And that will happen sometime in September. In fact, we think the coaching that you're all going to be getting is going to be valued at least $20,000, if not more, just for the coaching elements of it. This first social entrepreneurship competition was a big success. We had over 120 registrations, over 60 completed entries, and frankly, all of them really were amazing. All of them focused, were well thought out, they were creative, they focused on social issues, and most of them were sustainable ideas. And like I said earlier, the 11 finalists you're going to hear today are really going to be inspiring for you. It was very difficult to pick these 11 finalists, so congratulations. In fact, to start, I'd love to have the finalists just stand up right now and be recognized. You may ask, how did they win? What did they do? Well, first you're going to hear their great ideas in their presentations very briefly today, and you'll hear a lot more about them over the coming months, if not years. But there were a few things that the evaluators found that were a common attribute of their success in their applications. One thing was they actually participated in most of the webinars and the blogs and worked and got coached and asked questions about what they should do, how they should present, their ideas. They sought that out, which was a very helpful thing to them. Second was they communicated a lot and asked a lot of questions, as I said earlier. Also, a lot of these you'll find out are actually teams. They created teams and brought in people with expertise specifically to various elements of their proposal. Very smart idea, very good way to do it. What's great about them, they are really helping, and all of the submissions are going to help many people, from our veterans to the poor, the jobless and homeless issues, the environment, dealing with young or old, people with different demographics. And you'll hear it's very, very exciting. And as I said earlier, all of them, of course, are winners, and all of the submittals were winners. And actually, everybody that did submit, of the 60 people that did submit a business plan and application, will actually, for Saddleback College, receive an ability and a scholarship to take one of our business and entrepreneurship classes over the coming year. So as I said, everybody we think is a winner, and we really want to encourage them to go forward. Of course, you all get to take the class too, our finalists. Well, let's just get started. First, I'd like to give some introductions. And first and foremost, I want to thank everyone that has been helping us with this competition throughout the months and today. First, we really have to acknowledge our event sponsors. These are people that gave in-kind and financial contributions, upwards to about $100,000 in total. First, I'd like to recognize the Youth Entrepreneurship Program. Second, the California Community College's State Chancellor's Office, Schools First Federal Credit Union, Saddleback College Foundation, and of course, the University of California at Irvine. I mentioned earlier about the evaluation of all the submittals. Well, I would like to just recognize the names of all the evaluators. Please hold your applause till the end. First is Helen Ekman. She's a faculty at Brandman University and principal of James L. Consulting. Elizabeth Garlow, she's with Public Squared, as well as she's with the Michigan Corps, and she worked on the Michigan model. Timothy Jamal, he's a South Orange County Community College District Board of Trustee member. Kathy Margolin, who's an Associate Dean at Brandman University. Marcia Milchiker, also a South Orange County Community College District Board of Trustee. David Ochi, he's the Executive Director of the UC Irvine, I hope I say it right, Entrepreneur, get it, anteaters, entrepreneur, very nice. Entrepreneur Center here at UCI. George Powell, he's a social entrepreneur, and he's the CEO of Reuse Jeans. Maricela Sandoval, she's the Deputy Sector Navigator for Small Business in Orange County. Daniel Scott, he's a faculty at Irvine Valley College. And Rich Taffel, he's the President and CEO of Public Square, and also, as I mentioned earlier, is the one who led and started the Michigan model for social entrepreneurship. Let's have a round of applause for all of our evaluators. I'd also like to thank our Saddleback College Competition Committee. And once again, if you could please hold your applause. First, Anthony Tang, our Acting Dean of Business Science and Economic and Workforce Development. Barbara Cox, you heard up here earlier, our faculty and chair of our business department. Rebecca Knapp, a faculty member of our business department. Scott Frederickson, a faculty member also of business department and also a director of our new Entrepreneurship and Innovation Learning Center. Barry McCarthy, a faculty in our business department. Mira Manchek, a senior administrative assistant within the division. Linda Hall, also a senior administrative assistant within the division. Jenny McHugh, she's our director of marketing and communications. And once again, Rich Taffel, founder and president of Public Squared, and Elizabeth Garlow, also with Public Squared in the Michigan Corps. But most of all, folks, I really want to thank all of you and all the people who participated in this competition. You are all absolutely the winners. So you heard a little bit earlier from Barbara about what the format's going to be today. Let me just go over it real quick. Each presenter is going to come up and have literally exactly only 5 minutes. If not, we're never going to get out of here, but you get 5 minutes to make your presentation, followed by 5 minutes for the judges to ask some questions. So once again, judges have already been briefed beforehand to be very clear and quick with your questions because there is only 5 minutes. Then after the 10 minutes, you have about 3 minutes for the next presenter to start. You already know your order that you're going to be presenting, which by the way was a random picked order. After everything's all done, we will then provide information on how all of you can vote. We're going to have 4 awards. We're going to have a first place award of the 11, second, third, and fourth. And then we're also going to have a People's Choice Award, as we call it. So all of you are going to be able to also vote for who you think might be the most intriguing or best idea and plan for social entrepreneurship. We'll have a couple breaks, and then we have a wonderful keynote speaker today we look forward to telling you about and for you hearing. And then after the judges return from their deliberations, we will announce and present all the awards for them. But once again, I can't say again, they're all winners, and we're really excited about them. As you can see, though, it is a tight pack agenda, so we please ask for your cooperation. If you could please stay seated as much as possible, please not talk too much. As you heard earlier, this is being televised. Is that the right word? Live stream. Thank you. Live stream, but it'll also be videotaped for future people to see as well. So just keep that in your thoughts when about the sound and when you're walking around. So folks, let's get started. First, let me introduce our judges. Our first judge is Kathy Margolin. Kathy, yes, thank you. Kathy is an associate dean at Brandman University, where she also teaches business and accounting. She maintains her passion for social entrepreneurship through her personal entrepreneurial ventures. Thank you, Kathy. Our second judge is Andrew Munoz. Andrew is the executive director of the Orange County Workforce Investment Board. He is an Orange County leader related to the development of our workforce, ranging from entrepreneurs to large enterprises. Our third judge is David Ochi. David is the executive director of the UC Irvine Entrepreneur Center. His role here at UCI is to promote entrepreneurship within the region and to mentor those who are interested in making entrepreneurship their passion. Our fourth judge is Michael Potter. Michael is a social entrepreneur, filmmaker, a senior fellow at the International Institute of Space Commerce, and vice chair of Mana Energy Foundation and Geeks Without Frontiers. He has been instrumental to multiple social entrepreneurship efforts, including clean water solutions in Rwanda, and created multiple films related to social issues. Our final judge is Rich Taffel. Again, Rich is the founder and president of The Public Squared, an organization whose mission is to bridge the gap between social innovation and impact investing. Rich's leadership includes the successful Pure Michigan Social Entrepreneurship Competition, where he was able to focus social entrepreneurship throughout the state of Michigan. Once again, thank you, 5 judges, and we don't envy your job here. But with that, I am pleased to introduce our very first presenters, and that is going to be Saddleback Cafe, led by Emily Quinlan. How about a nice round of applause for them?
Thank you all for being here. I'm Emily Quinlan, and I am listed, excuse me, as the presenter for the Saddleback Cafe, but I would not be standing here before you without the complete support and help of our students in the Biz 1 honors class, my class that I was teaching this semester, and along with my partner, Professor Lisa Inlow, and her culinary arts students, Foods and Nutrition 173. These students have been so amazing in their support, organization, hard work, and they are determined to see our plan go forward. So I want to give all of them the credit. I'm just a spokesperson for the group. The way that our plan came about was a few months ago, I was called upon to make a presentation for the school, an event called the Human Resources Symposium 2014. And we were looking for a place to have our event. And then we were sought out by the Associated Student Government to make the event bigger and better and more appropriate than ever. And I started to ask, where can we have this event? Why can't we have it in our Saddleback College cafeteria? Who is in charge of this great space? And I was told it's not available. The people that are currently running our cafeteria are not amenable to opening it up to student events, and I was outraged. I thought, why do we not have a great space on our campus where students can have events, where students can commune and collaborate and rest and receive nutrition and have an appropriate, wonderful space to to learn and connect and recharge. And then I thought, why don't we have a nationally recognized culinary arts department that will run this cafeteria? So I became acquainted with Lisa Inlow, the chair of our culinary arts department. And then I realized there is no reason why Saddleback College cannot take back their cafeteria. They cannot take ownership of this opportunity. We can train our students for real-world job experience. We can nourish our students and give them an opportunity and a place to commune and collaborate. We can have job training. We can create a student food program for veterans and underserved student communities. We can have scholarships for our culinary arts department, a health and wellness initiative on our campus, and offer degrees and certificates. We have received incredible interest from outside private enterprise that want to partner with Saddleback College. And our numbers are fully fleshed out in our business plan, and we will generate sufficient profits to create a food program for our hungry veterans, food cards for low cost, no cost, and subsidized meal programs for veterans and our other needy students. When we think about the Saddleback College dining opportunities, I don't know if any of you have ever had occasion to seek out food on the Saddleback campus. First of all, it's no easy task to find food at the Saddleback College campus. And then once you do find the food, I have to say it has been characterized by one of our team members as the food of last resort. It is not nutritious, it is not delicious, it is not acceptable. I avoid it at all costs, I have to be honest with you. What we would want to offer are delicious, affordable meal options. We want to offer a convenient location. Our initiative is focused on student success. And if we are to keep our students on campus, we have to provide them an opportunity to stay there. We know that if a student has a class from 10:30 to 11:45 and they leave campus, they are not coming back for their 3 o'clock class. The Saddleback Cafe creates an opportunity for the students to be on campus willingly and receive the support that they need. We also envision a conference center where Saddleback College could host conferences, summits, symposia, and events for all of our students, faculty, and staff. We know that we have incredible partnerships with our local resorts and other hospitality and culinary arts providers, the Ritz-Carlton, the St. Regis, Pelican Hill, numerous Marriott hotels. We have hundreds of restaurants and other hospitality providers that are begging us to place students in their jobs. We know that we can create transfers, degrees, and certificates. I recently read yesterday, in fact, about a student from Mount San Antonio College, one of our neighbor colleges in Southern California, a community college, who is in the hospitality program and is transferring to Cornell University, the premier hospitality service educator in our nation. Why not Saddleback? We are seeking funding via the Orange County Social Entrepreneurship Competition as sustainable. We have a captive audience of 23,000 students on our campus. We would attract prospective students with our nationally recognized culinary arts department. We know that we would use the facility for community events, for catering, and other opportunities to visit our campus. So, thank you.
Look at the front row here. Well, folks, as you can see, 5 minutes goes very quickly. So other presenters, you can learn from this. But with that, we have 5 minutes to answer some questions. So I have a judge that would like to ask the first question.
I'd like to ask a question about how much of this is related to university policy versus entrepreneurs, because it sounds like some of these are policy issues about the current vendor. Is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. The policy issue with regard to the district, we have an outside provider of the service currently in place at Saddleback College, and it was almost, in my understanding, was done by default. Who can take over this task? As opposed to an incredible opportunity to serve our students and serve our faculty, staff, and the entire campus, it was almost delegated by default, and we are able, my understanding of reviewing the contract, is 120 days notice by either party. So we have an opportunity to infiltrate immediately. We are poised for immediate implementation, and we have incredible enthusiasm from most interested parties.
Just to follow up, how would this be? This sounds like it's an issue for a campus, trying to do something on the campus. How is this a larger social issue?
Well, I have to say, our primary concern is servicing our veterans. We have numerous veteran students on our campus who are literally going hungry. And if we can create an initiative where our needy veterans can be served with food cards for low cost, no cost, and subsidized meals, in our humble estimation, that is the most worthy and noble social cause. To address this hunger issue, literally a hunger issue on our campus with our veterans, we know that we can support a population that is in need. Workforce development is also, in my estimation, an important social consideration.
Who on the team would be financially responsible for the profits and loss?
We have an outside vendor. We have presented this business plan and received input from a few outside vendors who have scrutinized the business model and feel that there will be sufficient process to maintain sustainability as well as fund our veterans food program and our scholarship opportunities. I have one of our team members who would like to further elaborate. May I allow them to do so? Thank you.
When you talked about the social problem, we're also going to be head-on about giving them job opportunities from the culinary program. So when we make money in the food operations, we're also going to be giving it to veterans, DSPS, EOPS students who can further themselves in education and lead into jobs. Then we're also giving to like she said, social economic people who are on the down, who are not have as much money, give them meals at a cheaper rate.
I think we have time for one more question.
This is obviously a very passionate issue for all of you, and that's wonderful to see. How come you haven't just gone to him and made him scratch a check?
I'm going to reserve comment on that. You know something? Our school is so involved in so many wonderful and worthwhile initiatives that a lot of times our faculty, our students, and our staff come up with the great ideas and make the presentation. And we thought that this would be a wonderful platform to bring attention and possibly seek financial investment for a very worthy cause. Thank you.
How much time? Are we done? 1 minute left.
I'd just like to add one other point here, is that this will enable the culinary arts to use the cafeteria for production, which is really important to train people into this area of expertise, the culinary area. And we believe it'll create a lot of jobs for the students. And trying to make the connection between education and jobs, this thing can be very, very powerful, in addition to creating scholarships for veterans and other in social need. Thanks.
30 seconds. Anything real quick? All good? Thank you very much, Saddleback Cafe. Our second performer is called 100 Tiny Hands, and the lead presenter is Sophia Lynn, and they're from Irvine, California.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am actually Michelle Kine. I am a professor here in the School of Engineering at UC Irvine, and I am going to be speaking to you on behalf of 100 Tiny Hands today. As a card-carrying entrepreneur and inventor, I know to start off any pitch with defining the problem. The problem, though, is that there are a lot of problems. Pick your passion, be it lack of power in the world or lack of water, or infectious diseases around the world, or the fact that half of all of the children living on this earth live in poverty. There are a lot of problems. And as a technologist, we keep trying to come up with technologies to solve these problems. But there is no one single solution, no one invention that can solve all of the world's problems until now. I have figured out what that invention is. We need to invent inventors. This is the only way that we can solve all of the world's problems. But how do we do this? When the US is in a creativity crisis, Barack Obama said that leadership tomorrow depends on how we educate our students today, especially in science, technology, engineering, and math. Yet, we have this major problem in this country where we're now ranked 10th in innovation when we used to be ranked first. We're ranked 52nd in science, technology, engineering, and math in the world. This is a real problem when you look at job growth in this country. When STEM jobs outgrow other jobs 3-to-1. Only 11% of engineers today are women. And 2/3 of all PhDs in engineering graduating from this country are not US citizens. We need to fix this problem. So how do we go about doing this? We've been talking about education reform. This is a huge issue with the federal government right now. How do we fix this? Well, a very wise man, Albert Einstein, once said that to stimulate creativity, one must develop a childlike inclination for play. And so corporations have been trying to do this for a long time. But the answer is not putting slides in the workforce. It's great to try to create that inner child in an adult, but I have an easier solution for you. Why not just leverage the creativity of little kids? Little kids are the ultimate inventors. They're creative, they're motivated by challenges, they're not afraid of failure, they're resilient, they're idealistic, and they love to play. So why not play science? Little kids play sports, they get better at sports. They play music, they get better at music. It's hard, but that's okay. They stick with it, and they get better and better. Nobody hangs up their softball mitt because they lose a game once. Why are we telling kids that the first time they fail a science test, that should be the end of science for them? So this project is very, very near and dear to my heart because science, play, is how we do research at the graduate level. This is my personal story.
When I was a little girl, my favorite toy was Shrinky Dinks, this toy that you would stick in the oven and it would shrink to a fraction of its size. Fast forward 25 years, this toy solved my biggest scientific dilemma of how to pattern at very high resolution for micro and nanotechnology.
So my graduate students and I felt it was really important to pay this forward, to teach modern science with modern technologies, cutting-edge technology we've developed in our labs. So we have developed little lenses for cell phones that kids can make their own cell phone lenses to attach onto their cameras. They can make surfaces that never wet, and they can learn about electricity with conductive dough and building blocks to make cities that light up. We also want to create a community of inventors. These are just the starting point. We want little kids to be their own inventors with apps and a social community so that kids can invent their own inventions and sell them and make the profits from it. So imagine a little kid anywhere in the world where they can come up with an idea. We'd help them with the science, we'd help them package it and design it, and they would get to be that inventor. I want to create, remember Monsters, Inc., where the monsters powered the world with little children's screams? I want to power the world with aha moments. There's distributed democratized education now, where kids in Africa can take MIT courses. But to really learn and do science, you need experiential learning. You need to be able to do the hands-on activities of what a real scientist does. So we feel that we have a lot of advantages over other existing technologies, such as Goldie Blocks, and we just had UC Irvine's very first successful Kickstarter. Thank you.
Thank you, a tiny hand, 100 hands.
Yes, inventors are near and dear to my heart. I married one, so I appreciate that. In terms of your business plan, you were focusing more on higher income as your target market. So I'm looking more toward what is the social responsibility aspect to people who don't have the money for this.
So this project really started as a labor of love. My students were all doing a lot of outreach work with Rocket Science Tutors, which is a local Orange County after-school program that actually targets lower-income children. And so we were financing this ourselves, you know, all the outreach that we do in our lab, bringing kids in over the summer, and we realized that this wasn't sustainable. And we saw toys like Goldie Blocks that was very sustainable and was doing well. And so we thought that there would be interest in terms of people getting these tools and toys for their own kids. And so we wanted this to be a revenue, sort of like Tom's shoes, so that this would be a sustainable and scalable enterprise. But the target is still to reach all little kids, regardless of income. So we would subsidize the lower income programs.
Another question?
Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to target this product for girls in particular?
I'm sorry?
How you're going to target the product towards girls in particular, given that there's a issue there?
Yeah, so I was the first, just anecdotal, story. I was the first woman in my department at UC Irvine in the Department of Biomedical Engineering just 5 years ago. And now we have 5 women faculty. Little girls and women love role models. I had 0 PhD female students when I started teaching, and now more than half of my lab are female PhD students. 3/4 of the scientists working on this project are female PhD students. Little girls will have that as a role model. We're opening our labs up to the world, and so we've come up with toys that are targeted to both girls and boys. We have storybooks. Little girls like to learn by fanciful stories. This is the idea behind Goldie Blocks. So we have cartoon characters that take these little girls through the science. So the storybooks accompany each one of the kits, and we also are developing apps and an online community because little girls like the social aspects of play, where the boys like the building. So we want to incorporate both of them because we really need both more boys and girls in engineering.
Just a quick comment. I think it might be more interesting for a lot of the young kids to, rather than maybe selling their stuff on the website, but maybe just uploading videos of the cool things that they've done and then maybe try to figure out a way to monetize that.
So that is exactly this idea of having these kits that they get to build themselves. We also will have monthly challenges. The first several challenges will be based off of the 3 existing kits that we've already created because kids need tools to be able to start building things. So the first challenge will be, take the coolest picture of the leg of a bug that you can find, and then we'll have a prize for that. And every month we plan on rolling out different challenges for little kids because I think kids are incentivized, as you said, by gaming and by challenges. You guys want to add anything?
One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to gamify and trying to keep them engaged in that. That's the aspect of having like daily quests on that, so that they would come back week after week and try to learn something new or find something out. Like you said, like go look at a bug or go look at like a printed piece of paper to see the dot matrix on that. Because every time that they use the product or use our infrastructure, they're staying within our community and they're growing with us, and that's what we're aiming to do.
We want to grow with the kids.
Great. My question would be, how would you respond to the charge that this is really just a great toy company, this an educational toy company, which is a huge industry in the United States? So it's more on this, what makes it a social enterprise?
So we hit the California science curriculum, and we're trying to hit all the new curriculums in terms of the topics to be taught. And I think that there really is a need to teach modern science concepts, because if you look at the science kits that they have in the classroom, they don't teach modern science concepts, and they don't keep the kids engaged. So the fact that we're trying to roll out around the world and engage little kids, who otherwise can't afford these toys, I think also distinguishes us from a normal toy company.
Thank you. Time's up. Thank you. 100 tiny hands. Our third presentation is Canine West Kennels from Lake Forest, California.
3-letter home. Dave, if you have this letter, I'm no longer around. This is not written to make you cry, but to let you know because of you I lived a happy and complete life. I was able to experience real love. How wonderful the feeling to truly be in love. You were the only person I ever loved. I don't want that to be so for you. live your life, and enjoy every moment. This Marine took his own life after returning home as a result of PTSD. I'm here today to persuade you guys that K-9 West Hills is the best possible solution to make an impact on an epidemic tragedy in our veteran community, and to simultaneously help man's best friend. I will be discussing veteran suicide and the amount of dogs euthanized in our shelters, contributing factors, and finally K-9 West Hills solution. I will now start by discussing two major problems K-9 West Hills would like to solve. Veteran suicides are an epidemic proportion. It is estimated that every 65 minutes a veteran takes his own life. That means that by the time we end this presentation, 3 veterans will have committed suicide. According to Murray Markin, suicide rate among veterans, for every service member killed by an enemy combatant, 25 have taken their own life. The number of dogs euthanized this year is also a huge social issue in our society. Dogs have been the only animals that we have had a direct impact on how they evolve, and now their survival is in our hands. According to the Humane Society 2014, about 2.7 million healthy adoptable dogs, about 1 every 11 seconds, is put down in U.S. shelters today. I've covered serious problems we face in the community. Now let's take a look at some of the reasons. Veterans, from the time that they swear their oath, their life is completely changed. They live a completely different life from the rest of society. Anywhere between 4 and 30 years they spend in this lifetime. Veterans experience things that most civilians probably won't understand. And then there's combat, which has life-altering implications, such as a traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress. Then when it's time to separate, they give you 5 full days of classes. 5 full days to unlearn anywhere from 4 to 30 years. According to a statement by Donald Chapman, I pray that I will have a chance to decompress, deal with the aftermath, the anger, and the hurt and the damage to my soul in these working causes. I've discussed the problem with some of the causes. Now let's move on to how we can solve these. K-9 West would like to provide its veterans entering into our program are basically extending into a transitional work program. To increase that time that they spend transitioning from military life to civilian life. They will find the skills and experience that they already have to be able to give that to an employer so that they have more confidence that hiring a veteran just isn't charity or PR, but hiring a veteran means bringing dedication, loyalty, and the ability to build a better team. K-9 West Hills, the Pets from Vets program, will expose veterans to the healing and recovery benefits that dogs provide, allowing veterans to be able to live a healthier life despite having PTSD or TBI. Plus, the training of shelter dogs will decrease shelter population and in turn decrease the amount of euthanasia that go on in our country. According to Labor Secretary Thomas E. Perez, veterans have skills that employers are looking for. They make the nation's workforce more productive, our companies more profitable, and our economy more competitive. Chris Collins writes from Smithsonian Magazine, bonding with dogs has biological effect, such as elevating of hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin actually improves trust, the ability to interpret facial expressions, and overcome the paranoia and other pro-social effects, the opposite of PTSD symptoms. I've talked about the serious epidemic problem we face, causes, and provided you how K-9 West can provide a solution. Today we face a tragic loss of life. According to Joe Klein, Time Magazine, OIF veterans, the next greatest generation. Their service and their leadership qualities they bring home may be the best news to come out of the past 12 years of this conflict. Canine West Kennels can make a difference. I challenge you to join the fight. Select Canine West Kennels as the top finalists at the Orange County Social Entrepreneur Competition. Let's put our veterans back on track, and let's get them in the business world. Because being our veterans in the business world isn't about a handout. It's just good business.
Canine West Kennels.
Thank you, Joe. Can you help me understand exactly what the business model is for Canine West Kennels? Is it just strictly a kennel that then focuses on veterans, or how does that, what's the business model, the revenue stream, things like that?
Okay, well, the business model is actually what we would be a working education and training center. So we would be providing training classes to the general public, as well as working on contracting with homeowners associations. In other words, to incorporate in a homeowners association, the homeowners will actually do their fees, will be provided with dog trainers. Our veterans will do that dog training, they bring their dogs in, and then it's a continuing funding stream. As far as the pet industry has actually shown complete growth, they've been virtually impenetrable to the economy. Last year they made $47 billion, and they're estimating a 12% increase this year. And that's not just people taking their dogs to the veterinarian and buying food, that's people buying costumes, giving them training, taking their dogs and cats to get manicures. So they show that people that cut out other stuff rather than have their dogs and cats want. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the barriers that you see you're going to have to overcome in terms of zoning?
Yes. Depending on the amount of dogs that you would actually cancel as far as boarding, which is another portion of the business model, we would actually board people on vacation, one place the dogs to stay. Depending on the number of dogs we board will depend on the type of zoning we require. Usually it's in a commercial or industrial zoning. You can get a special condition permit that allows you to zone in residential areas. So but those are the barriers there, just the cost of that and ensuring how many dogs you can. Did that answer your question,
Have you looked into the issues of like workman's compensation and other insurance-related issues?
Yes, sir. Basically, there is a couple of insurance issues. We have an animal bailey insurance that we use, and that usually covers any animal that comes on your property and gets sick. As far as dogs getting bit, it will be your basic safety insurance that you need to provide on your property. There was another part of the question. I'm sorry.
Workman's comp.
Oh, workman's comp.
Yeah, for employees.
Yes, it's no different than any other workman's comp. You just have to make sure it's clear covered.
So you talked about getting different jobs, PTSD, and also the fact that we kill a lot of dogs. Which there's a lot of social issues. Which would you say is the top social issue that you're seeking to focus on?
I think they go together, the actual dog and the dog, because one helps the other. Right now, obviously, I think the biggest issue is that every 65 minutes, whatever the decision is, that number is just unimaginable. I mean, it should be an outrage that that's happening. And I think that is the primary focus to make sure that we get our revenue back on track. Because, I mean, World War II veterans were known as the greatest generation, right? They literally got back from war, they got into the factories, and they're able to do that. The veterans are able to bring productivity into the world. When they put us into the Industrial Revolution, they made this country an economic powerhouse. Shouldn't be any reason why our veterans today can't do the same thing. The unemployment rate of veterans is just at least 1.8% higher than the civilian population, especially among 18 to 34, which that's a serious issue that we need to address.
As you're training veterans, how long do you foresee them being in the program, and what do you see as their future once they leave the program?
Okay, the way I'm structuring the program is it would be an 18-month program. So they would be in for 18 months. The first 3 months is going to be the training portion. I set aside, I have a couple of contacts in the training visit. Some of the top trainers in the world, Dean Dunbar, who's a doctor of psychology, he's been training dogs for, I don't know, 20, 30 years now. I had Dr. Bob Bailey. He actually worked with Dr. Skinner when they were doing all of their dog testing. With his, they're both going to be doing on training on going in how to shape and how to train.
Let's hear it for Canine West Kennels. Thank you. Our next presenter is Della, and they hail from Culver City, California.
Hello, my name is Tina Tangalakis, and I am the founder of Della. Della is a socially responsible fashion line that is handcrafted by a team of women in Ghana, West Africa. We provide jobs, education, and skills training to our team, and our mission is to empower the women we work with so that they will one day take these opportunities and turn them into a better, lasting way of life. At the same time, here in the US, I am committed to changing the way that people shop. I seek to bring high-quality, socially responsibly made fashion to the forefront of the consumer market. My professional background is in design, having worked for various fashion companies in the past. Now, in 2009, I went to Ghana for the sole purpose of volunteering. While I was there, I decided to create Della in response to the unemployment I saw in the community where I was working. Now, when I started Della, I saw two issues that needed a solution. First, jobs, specifically jobs for unemployed seamstresses within the region. Second, ethical fashion. Having a big passion for design and having firsthand experience working for companies that outsourced out of Asia, I saw the need for high-quality, ethically made fashion to be brought to the US market. I realized that through Della, I could achieve both of these. Also, at the same time, I decided that I did not want Della to be a charity. Instead, I wanted Della to be an enterprise where other young women could be employed, educated, and empowered to lead their own lives. Now, there's three pillars of sustainability. They are jobs, education, and healthcare. Della has all three built into our business structure. We provide steady jobs and fair wages, mentorship and leadership skills, vocational skills training, such as advanced sewing techniques and handmade batik or fabric making courses for our team. We also offer weekly educational courses such as literacy classes and money management training. So far as healthcare, we pay for all of our employees' health coverage and do various educational seminars that discuss different matters such as nutrition, exercise, and female health. So now we've been in business for just over 4 years. We've made amazing strides both in Ghana and in the US. Currently in Ghana, we have over 30 full-time employees, and on any given day, we have an additional 5 to 30 part-time employees who are also working with us. Now, this particular fact is very dear to my heart. Over 60% of our current full-time employees in Ghana have worked with us for over 2 years. Now, to me, that shows success already and shows how we've been able to make long-term impact on people's lives just in a short amount of time. Now, here in the US, we've been able to impact the retail market. We've been fortunate enough to partner with brands such as Vans Shoes, and here you can see our spring-summer shoe collection, which we launched with them, where every shoe is constructed of our team's handmade batik fabric. We also have a collection coming out with them again this fall. This summer, we're launching our second clothing collection with Urban Outfitters. We've been fortunate enough also to partner with the likes of Apple, Tom's, and Nordstrom, to name a few. We've been able to spread our message through popular social media campaigns and have received regular press and features such as the Financial Times, Apparel News, In Style, and People Style Watch. Okay, now I'm sure that I make all of this sound very easy, and all of you are probably looking at me going, what is she doing here? Well, the truth is, in spite of all this success, Della is still a very small, growing brand. In Ghana, it's 30 plus women and 2 full-time managers. In LA, it's only myself, 1 full-time employee, and a dedicated team of interns. Due to how great things are in Ghana, one of the jokes we have over here is that we run a legit business in Ghana and a sweatshop in LA. So far as financing, I've financed this all myself. It's been through my own personal savings and through maxing out a few credit cards, all of which have indeed been paid back. However, credit cards only go so far. We're in a position where we're working with industry leaders and we need the capital to grow. Every purchase order right now goes directly towards the finance and development of the next, and we're looking for help to take us to that next level. Also, I've been the only sales rep that Della has ever had, and I believe that if we're able to get the proper team in place here in the US, we could expand immensely. So here I am asking you to help, and there we go.
Thank you, Della. Judges?
So I just had a quick question on revenue. For 2013, it was projected at about 450,000. I'm just trying to get a guesstimate of what that might look like for 2014.
It's about the same.
Are any of the 2 managers that you have, former,
I'm sorry?
the 2 managers that you have, were they at one point a lower level employee?
Well, what we do, we have a Ghanaian manager out there and 2 U.S. managers who are graduate students who've applied and they're on 6-month terms. There is, the full-time employee out here had worked as a manager in Ghana and is now out, she worked out there for 1.5 years and is now here full-time.
What type of opportunities do the women have after they leave you?
We have a couple women who have left us and they've usually moved to different towns where they go and they open their own, they usually open their own little seamstress co-op or something of that nature.
Other than cash, what's the biggest drawback or biggest challenge that your company's facing right now?
Well, right now it's just myself, and so I would say sales and marketing, expertise. We're going off of my creativity and my fashion background, but mentorship would be amazing. Mentorship both in the business world and navigating the fashion world so that we can continue to grow and maintain these relationships that we have.
So how do you handle the political structure in Ghana?
The political structure, Della is set up as an NGO over in Ghana, which is the equivalent of a nonprofit over there. Politically, it's a peaceful country. We're on very good terms with the mayor, with the town chief. We have a freight forwarder who we work with, and we've also actually done some stuff with the U.S. State Department over there as well.
So looking at some of your financial highlights, it shows a revenue of 450 roughly, and then a net income after operating expenses close to 250. So why is there a cash problem if you've got $250,000 that's been accrued from last year?
Well, last year went to pay off all of the business debts, so we no longer have any business debts. Now, depending on our purchase orders, it takes money to make money. So if we get a $200,000 purchase order, we need at least 100 of that. Plus there's just overhead costs and everything like that. I mean, got myself an employee here and the overhead of all the employees over in Ghana.
I would think with that kind of margin that even standard banking should be able to, to look at that and say that's a healthy margin. You pay off debt, you can re-incur debt to then continue your expansion. Is that something you guys consider?
I've been speaking with one private banker. However, larger banks like Chase or Wells Fargo, we're still too young of a business and we only have our first year of profit. They won't look at me yet.
And the final question, what's your single largest challenge? I mean, you think it's capital? And then the kind of following question is, do you enjoy the design part more, or do you enjoy the management part of the business the most?
You know, I have both sides to me. That's a good question. I like both. I look forward to the day when I could focus more on the design side, but I also look at the management as a very fun, creative building process. And then you had a question about other issues aside from money.
Yeah, just what do you use?
Well, There's critical issues in Ghana and in Los Angeles. In Ghana right now, it's growth because we don't have the time or the capacity. I've got inquiries literally from Anthropology, Nordstrom, and we need to develop new textiles for them and products for them, while at the same time we're in production for other big companies, making sure that they're happy, and we need to make those go well in order to keep those relationships going. So it's a matter of growth.
Just one comment. You mentioned maxing out your credit card, and I haven't really met many social entrepreneurs that haven't had to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Sounds like a confession.
Oh no, well I think it's a real thing that people can relate to, and that's just what you have to do.
Time for one more question. Any other questions? Sure? You want to say anything for 20 seconds?
No, thank you. I'm
All
happy to be
right.
here.
Thank you, Della. Out of the 11 finalists, folks, we have 4 that are actually from out of California. We have 1 that's from a different country. You can probably understand of the 11 finalists, the 1 out of the country is the one that wasn't able to be here in person today, but they have actually made a special video just for this showcase presentation. So our next presentation is Caribou Solar Power from Tanzania.
Enterprise competition. My name is Brian Campazulli, co-founder of Caribou Solar Power. We provide economic opportunities in East Africa by replacing kerosene lighting with solar power. Caribou in Swahili means welcome. We are welcoming Africa to affordable solar. The reality is, for over 1 billion people, once the sun goes down, kerosene lamps light up, filling rooms with smoke and soot. Inhaling these fumes can lead to respiratory illness, disease, and even death. 95% of the worldwide deaths from fire and burns are in the developing world, and over 1.5 million deaths annually are attributed to the exposure to indoor air pollution. Nonetheless, families spend up to a quarter of their household income on kerosene lighting, releasing over 100 million tons of carbon emissions into the atmosphere every year. Solar products have begun to be selling in Africa. These products provide a replacement to the ubiquitous kerosene lantern. These solar products range in price from $10 to $50, but so far they have only been able to penetrate 3% into the African market, leaving still over 500 million people using kerosene lighting. Since the vast majority of people cannot afford solar, the key issue to address is affordability. For someone who makes $1 to $2 a day, a $10 solar lamp is unfortunately out of their reach. So, we know this because we went to Tanzania and we sold over 2,000 solar lanterns. And we quickly realized that the people who need these lamps the most cannot afford them. The truth is, kerosene is expensive. It's a lot more expensive than a solar lamp. But kerosene is made affordable because people can buy a little bit at a time, which is about 30 cents a day. So, every day or so, a family member travels to a duka to refill on kerosene. And a duka is a small, locally owned shop that sells consumer goods, and they're usually spaced a few miles apart. So families end up spending about $2 a week on kerosene, amounting to around $100 a year. We wanted to find a way to make solar as affordable, which leads us to the development of the Caribou Solar Power Lamp. We separate the solar panel from the lamp, leaving a battery, an LED light, and a port for charging cell phones. It's convenient to carry. You can hang it on the ceiling to illuminate an entire room, and you can even charge your cell phone. We call it the puck. Called the puck because it looks like a hockey puck, and because we are Canadian. It's way brighter than a kerosene lamp, far more versatile, and our business model makes it affordable. Here's how we do that. Our customers are the dukas. We sell them a Caribou Business in a Box kit, which contains 2 pucks and 1 solar panel. The duka then sells one of these pucks to a customer for $3. The customer uses the puck, they go home, they light their house, they help their kids study, and even charge their cell phone. A few days later, they come back to the Duca, and they swap the spent puck for a newly charged one and pay 30 cents. So every day, the customer is now coming back to the Duca the same as they would for kerosene. And after 3 months' time, the Duca owner has now earned back the cost of the kit, and from then on makes profit. So we make it possible for when a customer comes to a Duca, they can now afford solar lighting at the same price they would otherwise pay for kerosene lighting. We know this business model works. We launched a pilot study in Tanzania using our business model and similar solar lights. Let me tell you about Good Hope. Good Hope is an organization that helps families and children afflicted with HIV/AIDS. They also own Duca. So, since Good Hope has been using the Caribou business model, they've been able to generate additional income to fund their operations. As well, they're happy to spread the word of solar. They're able to help a local woman in their community switch from kerosene to solar, which saves her money, allows her to work longer hours into the night, and now her kids can study safely at night. Recently, we've gained global recognition, allowing us to spread awareness, gain traction, and even receive funding by the United Nations. So, today, we're asking you to contact us for more information on how we can make solar at an affordable price a reality for Africa. Help us welcome Africa to affordable solar power. Caribou Solar Power. Thank you.
So judges, do you have any comments or questions about Caribou Solar?
What I liked about it was that it respects the systems of which they're working in. Does not impose a system, but understands the current system and way of life and works within that system.
The only question I would have had for them was they described the 2,000 units they had sold. I was wondering if they did that in the kind of multi-level market that they were describing in the business plan. So it would have been interesting to hear that.
Yeah, I wonder if that's in the plans actually too, but any other judge? Is that good? We're all fine? Oh, David.
Solar is obviously a great technology, and it's expanding when you showed us the 3% of the market's been penetrated, that actually is amazing to me that it's that high.
Yeah.
Because that's quite a bit of solar then that's going in. One of the things I appreciate about what they've done is they've split out the costs that are generally high with thin film technologies for solar and pushed it to a central point that respects their current distribution of power. I would like to know more about exactly what kind of battery is being used and how much longevity there is to that. How long will a puck last? Does it have a 1-year life? My cell phone battery doesn't last as long as it used to. How long will these pucks actually last? If you've got a return of investment of 2 to 4 months, that's probably okay. But if you're not able to get daily charges and that sort of thing, there's some logistics to it. But conceptually, it looks like they are respecting what they're doing. So that's very good.
Good. Let's hear it for Caribou Solar. Our next presenter is another one that's out of California, a little north of us at a place called Oregon. Full Life Programs from Corvallis.
Great. Well, good morning. My name is Anna Suntag. I'm the founder and president of Full Life Programs. And I look forward today to sharing with you 3 things. 1, the story of my inspiration to create this work. 2, my enthusiasm for the project that this grant is making possible. And 3, my conviction that it's possible with the stakeholders I'm going to be developing this year to come together and develop a new paradigm for senior care that's sustainable, health-based, and rewarding. In 2009, I learned that an acquaintance of mine had suffered a stroke and she became hemiplegic, which means that she can no longer use half her body. That meant that for the rest of her life, she would need support to complete the activities of her daily life. I kept hearing stories about what it was like. She was undergoing lots of stress. It was smoky. There was TV on all the time. The stories kept getting worse. She got to move, but she still had some of the same restrictions: isolation, lack of choice making, inability to be with people that she cared about. So at that time, two different things kept happening. One, I continued to have more and more ideas about how to make a difference for my friend Helen, how to give her opportunities for deepness, richness, meaning, and fun, and how to help other people like her have that too. And at the same time, I continued to be more and more strongly moved that this was really a calling for me to do this work. And I was more and more entrenched in the need to do it. So one thing led to another. Let's see if we get this. And Full Life Programs was requested to conduct a spiritual, non-denominational discussion group at a well-respected living facility in the town I was in. So I began talking with 6 to 8 people every week. And we started having themes of our discussion, but then it became clear that we wanted to talk about the masters of literature. So we talked about wonderful stories and poems, and we shared in a way that was so safe and so respectful of each other that I noticed all kinds of wonderful interactions happening between the people. The group Full Life Expressions became the center of the high point of their weeks. This was amazing. So with this grant, I am going to create 6 new groups for Full Life Expressions and do research with them that shows how these interactions develop across the members and how their own relationships and their life shifts in a positive way through engaging in the group. I'm also going to create the Full Expressions curriculum, which I'm going to market at about the same time that I also publish my written research from the qualitative work that I do during this year. So with the curriculum, I will be able to share this opportunity for what is a kind of person-centered care with people across the world. Person-centered care is the kind of care where the person, not the provider, is the center of what happens. So the person's wishes, goals, and dreams are what drives the care, not what the provider finds most economically feasible or appealing. The Brookings Institution, as a matter of fact, in 2013 published a paper recommending person-centered care as the focus of the new kind of health care, which will be affordable and sustainable and person-centered. The field of senior services understands this, but they don't know how to implement person-centered care into their systems. So that's where Full Life Program steps in. By marketing our curriculum and training, using volunteers with our 501c3, we will be able to share this curriculum across the world. It's going to be easy to learn. We'll do online trainings, in-person trainings as we develop. Therefore, enabling the field of senior services to learn how to implement person-centered care. Now we turn to a larger need. Full Life Expressions does help people's quality of life, but it's a Band-Aid. The systems of care are inadequate. They're an old model based on the idea of providing care and doing things for the needy. Instead, person-centered care is the kind of care that's going to keep people healthy and engaged in their lives. So we're going to, this year, create a coalition that will work together in future years to design a whole new system of care, a system of care that will involve health-based system, prevention, engagement with providers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Full Life Programs. And now 5 minutes of questions. Yes, you may.
Yes, your personal care, let me focus more on the providers, and how do you get the providers to buy into that if they're a for-profit group?
So person-centered care is really something that all the research and social services agencies and people across the world understanding is important to create quality and have people be happier and healthier. So they're kind of, the people who own these, the owners and managers are kind of under a mandate from the system to do person-centered care. So they're going to be happy to engage with us, with the volunteers that we bring to their system, and I'm going to first be the volunteer that comes. So they're going to like this opportunity to say, we're doing person-centered care, and they're going to find that it's easy to do, and they're going to find that their residents look forward to it, they're happier, they're healthier, they're engaged in their own lives, so they're not depressing and needing psychotropic medications to manage their behavior.
Are the facilities willing to pay for this sort of services?
No, they're not right now. That's why I need you. But once the curriculum is developed, volunteers will be able to give the sessions, and the curriculum will be affordable. Usually the corporate care has a full-time employee who's an activities director, and they only have maybe $100 a month for supplies. So that's why they don't really want to pay me to come in and do the work, which is why that work I did for 16 months didn't last. It's funny, the administrator just kind of looked the other way when I came around because they knew they didn't want to pay me. But they can buy a curriculum, and they can have volunteers come in, and then the volunteers can teach the activities directors to do it, because it's not hard. It's just a new way of doing things. Thank you.
Sir, are you suggesting then that you receive funding of some sort, that you'll be able to create a curriculum that, testing my understanding of this, that you can then scale that curriculum as a package, a product, a boxed kit, if you will, that you sell for, $19.95 or whatever, and they buy it, and the activities director spending their $100 or a portion of it on your kit.
Right.
And that's the scale.
Exactly. So this grant is going to give me the chance to go out and show people in my communities how great this work is and do the research. And then I will, during that time, also develop the curriculum, find a publisher, and as I write, I'll write up the research and I'll market the curriculum. So that will be affordable by the activities directors, and they'll be able to present it and work with volunteers too.
If a nursing home engaged your program for a period of time, at the end of it, how would they know that you succeeded? How would they measure your impact and say, yes, this worked, this is a valuable change in our systems?
Well, one way that Fox Hollow did was that they found that their residents were talking about it in between sessions. They found that their residents were eager to come. They found that they were engaging with each other. They were wanting to sit with each other at meals so they could talk together more. So even the outside of the relationships improved. So I actually got feedback from the organization that they had found on their own just by noticing the residents and listening to their comments about the effectiveness. I'll certainly be willing to share my research too.
How will you market, assuming the curriculum is developed, it's successful, how will you market to private care facilities versus publicly funded ones?
Well, I will advertise. I'll use marketing techniques. Basically, there are lots of journals that the people use. So there's a kind of journal that the administrator has. There's a different kind of journal that's in the break room for the staff. And so there's going to be advertising in those journals. And so they'll see those ads. They'll hear the news. I'm not a marketer. That's one thing I'm going to learn from Saddleback is how to do that. But I do believe that it will be something that will develop through word of mouth and through people's examples, talking to each other about how to like it. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone. Thank you. Full Life Programs, Corvallis, Oregon. Back to being a little more local. Our next presenter is Modern Model Residence School from Aliso Viejo, California.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Prakash Vista, founder and director of Modern Residential School in Kalikut, Nepal. And I'm a freshman at Soka University of America. I established this school in Nepal because after the tragic death of my parents, I came with immense realization that I need to educate the children and give back to my community. The school I have built is in a very remote part of Nepal. It is the most remote district in Nepal. Out of 75 districts, it's no better than just 2 districts. And here are some of the data about Kalikut district. Overall literacy rate there is 38.47%. Per capita income a year is $83. Life expectancy of people is 42 years. There aren't any roads. There aren't any means of electricity. And people live the harshest life in the world. Furthermore, children face the worst form of life there. Education system is in crisis. The government schools have largely failed. Actually, the education today is no better than how it was in the 60s. There is corruption and politics in public schools. Teachers are frequently absent and they have very low morale. And there aren't any basic infrastructure in schools. Private schools are too expensive and they are very inaccessible. So this gave birth to Modern Residential School. So what's our model? We have 3 pillars of education. First, we provide free technology-based education, uniform supplies and meals to students. And second, we provide free tutorial service to the students of government schools or public schools. And third, we provide literacy and skill development classes for illiterate women in our village or in our district. So how do we generate income for all of these expenses? First, we have 3 ways how we generate income for our annual budget. First, we have entrepreneurial ventures. We try to incorporate business with our service. We have IT center, stationery center, convenience center, and goat farm in our village. These are the only type of business ventures there in the village, so we have the sole market there. And this covers almost 80% of our annual budget. And second, we have contribution for parents with jobs. There are very few parents who have jobs. Like they have the government teachers, or they have jobs in NGOs, and they have to pay $100 a year for a child for all of his expenses. And third, we have cultural programs like this where we raise funds for our students. And there is another aspect that is so unique to our students. The unique part is a parent has to work 20 to 30 days a year to make his child study for free at our school. This is because people work for just 2 months. It's seasonal agricultural occupation and people don't have any jobs at all. So we are trying to make use of their labor and teach their children for free. And they work for our entrepreneurial ventures. They work to develop infrastructure of our schools. And they help in transportation of goods because we don't have roads, so we need to carry our books like this. So these are the parents who work for our school in all of these, and that helps, that lowers our cost. And this is our village. What we want from this competition is $10,000 because our cost of operation is so low, we want to minimize all of our costs. Our initial capital investment is just $10,000 to make a school. So with $10,000, we make one model school, and we can replicate that model again and again. So how do we spend this $10,000? We build 7-room school building with all of the local resources. That is almost $5,000. And we have stationery and solar panels, $1,500. Investment in goat farm, $2,000. Convenience store, $1,000. And miscellaneous $800. And this is the impact of our school. 160 kindergarten students initially, they are directly impacted at our school, and 100 students from public schools, they get free tutorial services. 40 poor and disadvantaged women get literacy and skill development classes, and we provide market opportunities for 6,000 villages. They don't have to walk for a day to buy the basic stuff. And our future plans, 10 model schools in 5 years, 20 model schools in 10 years, and I hope this will bring the revolution in rural education in the developing countries. These are some of the pictures of our students. This is me there. And this is how we have been expanding our schools. Thank you so much.
As you're moving to the new town, the initial investment for the 7 rooms, does that also include the land for the goat farm?
Yeah, it's for everything.
So currently you have one school today?
Yeah, exactly.
And are there any issues with children and food, making sure the kids are fed? Is that something the school does, or is that up to the parents?
Yeah, that's our school does that, because we buy cheap corn from our village. They're very cheap, and we make this corn meal once a day for all the children. And that doesn't cost so much, so that lowers our cost too. But at the same time, we provide food for the children.
And what do you see as one of the biggest challenges in terms of scaling this idea?
One of the challenges we find is definitely the capital investment. We need initial investment for all of our projects, and we don't have any resources or any sources of income back in village. When I started this school, I had to convince the villagers to have 20,000 temporary loans to start this school. And I convinced them, we'll pay you in future, but we need to start this. We shouldn't wait for someone else to come to our village and make the change happen. It's we who need to change our own village. Thank you.
Where do you find the teachers that want this job?
Yeah, that's one of the important questions, because the employment rate is so low there. There aren't any industries in our whole district. We have 40 villages. There aren't any industries. There isn't any electricity, and there aren't any job opportunities. So the students who are already high school graduates or who are even college graduates, they don't have any job opportunity, nor they have any capital to start something, or they don't have even money to go abroad and start working. So we have this huge manpower locally too, which we can use, and we are trying to get internet connectivity this summer so that we can have teachers training from the capital city or from all the internet sources like Khan Academy, and so that there's immense possibility with such a low investment. And so we are really excited, and I'm the happiest person right now to be speaking in front of you all.
Just to get a point of clarification on your estimated annual revenue that you talked about, you show the convenience store, the goat farming, et cetera. Are these actually net revenues from those operations? Because in the expenses, for example, the goat farming doesn't have any expenses associated with it. There's no expenses associated with photocopying. In other words, there's no photocopy repairs or paper or anything listed. So are these net?
There I have written the actual cost to buy the things only, because we operate all of these ventures through the parental labor, because that's for free, and that helps in solving regulatory issues. Because one of the problems in the developing countries is corruption and mismanagement, but we are using all these parents to be directly involved in school every day, so that the teachers will be teaching really well, they will not be careless, and there wouldn't be any regulatory issues with goat farming or convenience store and our IT centers where we have photocopy machines for 5 villages.
So that brings up another question, which is you've listed 5 or 6 different revenue streams, and they're not closely related. They're very disparate. Goat farming and photocopying. Kinko's, I've never seen a goat.
Exactly, because to be very frank, I was just a high school graduate at that time, and I'm still a college freshman. I have a very terrible story how I came here, and I just wanted to do as many entrepreneurial ventures as we can in the village, as I could think at that time. And since there aren't any ventures there, we have immense opportunities to do any kinds of ventures there and have income at the same time when we provide market opportunities to the village. So at that time, that's what I thought would be the most appropriate, because in Nepal, 85% of the goats are imported from India. We have this huge scarcity of goat meat because goat meat is the most favored meat in Nepal. Nepal is a Hindu country, so they don't have, it's illegal to kill a cow. So goat meat is the most favorite meat, so that's why we prefer the goat meat. And it just takes 11 months to double the number of goats because of its 5 months pregnancy period and 6 months to grow. So within 11 months, we can almost double the number of goats and we can have the double income. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Modern Model Residence School. Our 8th presentation is from Irvine, California, and it's Back to Native Orange County.
Hello, my name is Robert Charles. I'm the founder of Back to Native Orange County, and our goal is to grow native, grow California, grow ourselves. One of the biggest problems in California is our water issue. On one side, you have a lush green scenery with snow-capped mountains, and on the other side, you have nothing of the sort. We see nothing of the sort is California right now. We are in one of the worst droughts of all time. And this is a common occurrence for California, and we're not doing enough about it. That's where Back to Native Orange County comes in. We want to go to businesses and yards and replace the yards with native plants. Now, what does this do? By growing native, we reduce the water usage, and native animals come back to their natural habitat. We grow ourselves by hiring disadvantaged groups to become the core and foundation of our company, and we grow California by giving these disadvantaged groups the opportunity to become their own business owners. The team. I'm Robert Charles, I'm the CEO, and on my board of advisors, I have Judith Gilo, Briscoe Pelkey, Todd Gronsky, and Jeff Davies, all specialists in different areas to make this company perfect. Now, why don't we do it now? Well, the perception is it's too hard, too ugly, and they don't know where to start. Really, the third option is the only one that's true, and I'll give you an example. Here are 2 beautiful plants, one from Virginia, one from California, but 2 plants that take different amounts of water. The Virginia plant takes an excessive amount of water, while the California plant takes rather nothing at all. Now, the immediate payoff for going native is that for every square foot you take away from a traditional garden, you are given $2 compensation. To do that, now it's a much more attractive ideal to switch from a traditional garden to a native garden. The midterm payoff is to go from inefficient to wasteful water, which you use from a traditional garden, you're going to a low volume garden, which means factor in a lawnmower, you're saving upwards of $2,000 a year. The future payoff is you will see wildlife come back into your garden with different species of hummingbirds and butterflies. Now, I'm going to talk about the market, Porter's 5 forces plus the one he additionally added. I'm going to dissect it and tell you exactly how we're going to tackle each of the components. Suppliers, Tree of Life is a native nursery, and they have agreed to give us plants at a reduced rate. Lowe's and Home Depot is where we'll get our accessories and tools. New entrants, that's actually a good thing. I want people coming into this market who are native plant owners. Why? Because that means the drought will be fixed. It'll help that. The buyers, they have a fear of cost and a fear of maintenance. Fear of cost, well, after 3 years, it'll be cheaper to go native than to have a traditional garden. The fear of maintenance, well, there is no fear. They'll be doing no maintenance whatsoever. Regulatory. Homeowners Association says you have to have a certain amount of green space. Native plants are counted as that green space, so we're safe there. And utility incentives, just like I talked before, switching from a traditional to native, you're given $2 incentive for every square foot. Substitutes, people that do nothing. I want to convince them why they should go native. And the people that do it themselves, well, if they're going to do it themselves, I want to convince them why they should go native instead of traditional. Now, landscaping. Independent contractors that go and do whatever the homeowner wants to do. Well, I'm fine with that, but I at least want to show the market that native plants is a more attractive look, so convincing homeowners why they should be doing that. Now, I'm going to tell you what we need to do. For year 1, we need to incorporate startup equipment, hire supervisors for his first career, prove the model, and expansion training. Because right now, the company is this PowerPoint. Now, what is needed? We need startup costs, we need initial operating costs, we need first jobs. We need enough money to get off the ground. And in my future analysis that I have later on, you'll see that we will make $9,000 after the first year. Now, building crews and changing lives. We need a supervisor to supervise 2 crew members that come from a disadvantaged group. After a year of teaching them how to become a contractor, having them get their license, learning every ordeal of the business, they will then we'll go to expansion, and this is what we call the butterfly effect. After the first year of these crew members learning how to become supervisors themselves, they will be then given 2 additional crew members for themselves and a truck for themselves to brand off and be licensed from us, and then so on and so forth, and this is how it grows. Now, I'm not done yet. Professor Feldman at UCI came here, even spoke in this room about what is the best way to reduce the water usage. It's not shutting down a golf course for a week. It's not charging for tap water at local restaurants. It's in our own backyards. So we are doing the most efficient way. We're saving water, we're saving wildlife, and we're using disadvantaged groups. And this is the new financial sheet that some judges had a problem with because I called it a hockey stick diagram. So right here, we have a projection which shows us at a profit of $9,000. If you want to know what the average cost for a traditional garden, it's $12,000. The average cost for a native is $16,000. I have it at $8,000 if we're going for the bare minimum. So there's no loss here. And thank you for considering my project.
What do you feel is the most important part of the social enterprise aspect? Is it trying to employ disadvantaged groups, or is it trying to focus on the environmental aspect?
I mean, people are the most important. I mean, I love the environment and I love saving it, but you can't argue that people are less important than the environment. So these disadvantaged groups are the most important for me.
Thanks for the presentation. One of the questions that comes up is the impact on property values. You have a neighborhood with 200 homes and 5 of them go native, and opinions are that those are the 5 outlier weird. What are they doing? Why don't they have lush green lawns? You know, Irvine without perfectly manicured lawns is not Irvine. Right. So how do you account for, like in other places like Phoenix, you know, there's a premium that you'll find in property values when there isn't native landscaping. So they see as much as 12 to 15% drops in property value, which on a $500,000 home in Irvine is a significant cost. How do you account for that in your calculations to the customer?
So like I was talking about perception, people look at it, it's ugly. They don't see that there can be beauty in it. And with over 5,000 different types of plants in California that are native, it's not just the ugly, just see shrubs everywhere or the mountainside that you see in green space. There's other plants that you can use to make it look more beautiful. And not just that, but the other money side of it is, like I said, when you factor out the lawnmower and using water, you're saving upwards of $2,000 a year. So saving that much money a year and going forward, I think that's going to be a more attractive way.
Your business model is once you get the people trained and they work for a year or so, then they form their own crew and start off. Is that a franchise type deal, or are they still working for your company? How do you plan on working that business model?
So I plan to license it out. So after they've been supervised, after I pretty much give them a stamp of approval, kind of like McDonald's does with that, I want then to have them have their own truck and their own crew, so once they become leaders. And then when we give them work, they just pay a small royalty so that they can really become their own business owners. And then any new additional work they find, they can have the full amount of profit for that. I just want to give these people the opportunity to become business owners, not just give them work.
Will you help finance them to buy the truck, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, because I understand that some of these people, they don't have a good financial record, they have bad credit, and so yes, we would do that after they've been supervised and given that stamp of approval.
I'll just acknowledge that environmental issues are one of the hottest topics among social entrepreneurs. So much of it is abstract that people can't relate to. I admire how you take a very complex topic and put it into the real world.
Thank you.
No more questions? No more? Thank you. Back to native Orange County. Our next presenter is one of the folks that traveled out of state. They hail from Orlando, Florida. Entourage Red.
Hi, my name is Taylor Chewy, and this is my best friend and business partner, Nicole Anderline. We'd like to thank the sponsors and Saddleback College for this opportunity. Please enjoy our presentation. Nearly half of patients across the world are there because of poor hygiene. Fact, over 2,000 children die each day due to hygiene-related infections. Fact, each year, 12 million women develop life-threatening diseases because of undiagnosed vaginal infection. Fact, our daily health indicator will save lives. Every time a woman enters a public restroom, she's exposed to over 1,800 forms of harmful pathogens, including E. coli, salmonella, and a potentially deadly strain of MRSA, which is frightening, but in comparison to undeveloped countries, it seems like a luxury. Here, women will either line a seat with toilet paper or squat, even though lining the seat only offers a psychological relief, and squatting often results in a mess. But in developing countries, the simple act of urinating leads to disease, birth defects, rape, and loss of life. The United Nations acknowledges the world sanitation disparity as a global crisis.
SmartWay is a purpose-driven innovation. It offers women the ability to stand upright and urinate, protecting them from urinating in unsanitary conditions. Now, how the product works is you place your finger and you press on the crease edges. As you can see, the product contours once you press. This ensures a snug fit regardless of the shape or size and guarantees a watertight seal.
According to Dr. Oz, the average person urinates 6 to 8 ounces. We will be using 16 ounces in order to demonstrate that our product sufficiently handles twice the normal amount without leaking or absorbing water.
It doesn't matter if you started with 30 seconds or an hour, our product will not leak because it's 100% waterproof. Our patent, trademark, and FDA approval are underway.
When finished, shake excess urine out of the funnel and dispose of it in a recycling bin or receptacle. As you can see, the outside of the funnel is completely dry.
SmartWay will improve women's health in both the foreign and domestic markets. The development of our daily health indicator will give SmartWay the ability to test users' urine for signs of pregnancy, ovulation, yeast infection, UTIs, STDs, kidney infection, drug ingestion, and drug poisoning. The global impact of our daily health indicator will be revolutionary.
In developing countries, this single device is more than innovation. It's life-changing. It prevents vaginal infections that lead to disease, facilitates self-diagnosis for women and children without immediate access to medical attention, and reduces women's risk of being assaulted while urinating alone at night or in remote locations.
As for here, early diagnosis of UTIs prevents kidney infection. Early detection of STDs detours unprotected sex. Knowledge of ovulation prevents unplanned pregnancy, and real-time drug testing gives women control of their bodies at all times. So they're not exposed to being date rape drugs. Now, SmartWay will acclimate women with the inevitable transition towards urinals, which is a global movement for water conservation. Even the U.S. military has invested over $30 million on urinary devices to control the soaring rates of UTIs amongst troops who are forced to use crude facilities such as the Iraqi toilet.
Over the past year, we've sold more than 6,700 units, both online and in retail locations, totaling $10,000. A just-in-time manufacturing model is employed to minimize unsecured personal investment by strategically coordinating production to meet demand. We outsource production for orders exceeding our base in-house capability. Any financial award received today will be invested towards fully automated production equipment to reduce our dependency on contractors. This equipment costs $37,000. Automated equipment reduces overall costs and man hours, improves efficiency, and permits us to leverage economies of scale. Production costs will fall below $13 a case, improving profitability by 78%. We're currently working on the domestic market and partnering with the largest product development and asset management company in the country, placing SmartWay in more than 16,000 Walgreens and CVS pharmacy locations nationwide, and offer value at $4.1 million. Scaling our operations to meet production and marketing requirements for CVS and Walgreens will cost $650,000. We're currently seeking knowledgeable investors to help finance our launch and offer guidance. 30% of our equity is offered to investors at $4 million valuation. Over the next 3 years, we will generate approximately $9.3 million.
We thank you for your time and employment opportunity.
Your next product is your DHI. Where do you stand in terms of that product development?
Product development is in the works right now. We're working with a chemist who's helping us to develop our own specific testing strips that we can put in. We're currently using the dipsticks that are used in medical facilities when you go to get any type of urine test. Oh, we also have patents, trademarks, and FDA approval underway.
Can you tell us a little bit about the FDA approval? Is that those are existing tests that are just used in a different way? Is that right?
Right. Since urinary devices don't really exist in the American market as far as disposable ones, FDA approval is kind of uncharted, so we're working with them on that right now. The only thing that we need to get approved is our material, and then the technology that we're using already exists, so that's already been approved.
So is it fair to say that the products that you've been selling so far do not have the test on them, they're just a convenience? And so you cannot use the new ones until the FDA approves them?
Correct. The products that we're using right now are empty, so they're without the testing ability, but they are a preventative product, so they do still protect women's health, so that they're used, instead of coming into contact with those contaminated surfaces for here as well as in developing countries.
And then what's your anticipated timeline for FDA approval?
It's been taking a while, I guess, since it is uncharted. We're hoping that it goes through soon, but we've heard that with more recognition and money, you can sometimes see a long process.
So your marketing strategy is to go straight to the consumer, and not go to facility management companies or people like that. And I'm always so happy that this was happily provided for by the management of this company, when they have the toilet sheets that you're to use. Why wouldn't you go directly to that same marketplace, same distribution model, and have this as an alternative and sell it through them instead of having to go through a massive distribution chain of CVS and that sort of thing?
We are actually doing both. So we're selling directly to consumers with our individualized packaging, as well as the dispensers that we have. Those we provided in women's restrooms, similarly to the toilet lines that are already there. So we are working with restaurants, clubs, airlines, and things such as those that we can have our dispensers in.
A lot of your presentation talked about the challenges in the developing world. It sounds like your marketing is pretty much in the first world. Is that correct?
Yeah, we need to market here in industrialized countries because this is where we're going to actually be selling to the end user, so they're who needs the marketing. In developing countries, they don't have the means to see marketing materials, which we would be providing, so we actually provide our product to the organizations that work in those countries. So UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and the CDC. We provide our product to them, and then they would provide the product to the women in those countries.
Kind of a basic question. What was your thought process on the imaging on the product itself?
Our branding is edgy, and it is for young women, so that they'll be acclimated to the product and not see it as something weird. We do have competitors in other countries, and a few here that are reusable, and they only market as far as the camping industry. We want to make our product something mainstream, and we decided to go with branding more similar to the Kotex black box idea, so that young women will see it and think that it's something that they like and not something that they want to think is a taboo.
Also, while researching similar comparative products such as the tampon for our marketing, we found that targeting the more social younger segment of the market, women between ages of 17 and 24, was where the product really expanded through marketing. So we're choosing, like Taylor said, to use the Kotex little black box, the more edgy, fun personality. So a girl can feel like she can have it every day in her purse, in her bag. It's just a simple, fun necessity.
You sort of alluded to the fact that, are you going to be using this market in the United States to be able to fund social responsibility in third world countries? Is that what you meant?
Right. So our profitability here will allow us to provide our product at a very, very reduced price to those organizations who will be able to provide the product to them.
Great, thank you. Let's hear it for Entourage Red from Orlando, Florida. We have two more presentations, and the next one is our next presenter from out of state. They hail from Greensboro, North Carolina. And let's give a round of applause for Bioadhesive Alliance.
Good afternoon, my name is Daniel Odom, the 5 East Alliance, where our motto is pig poop products. All right? So basically what we want to do, we want to take the 43 billion gallons of swine manure generated each year in the world and turn it into an alternative to petroleum-based adhesive. So adhesive is just a fancy word for glue. So applications are varied. You got carboning, flooring, book binding, paving construction, crack sealants. And if we were just to tap into just 10% of the swine manure, it would generate roughly $77 billion in annual revenue in the adhesive industry. So as you can imagine, there's incredible implications both in agricultural and adhesive industries. So why would farmers be interested and care about turning their manure into an adhesive? Well, swine farm manure foaming is a big issue. Imagine because they have so much manure is actually foaming up underneath, causing these methane pockets. And actually, 40 fires are caused in the past 5 years where farms literally just exploded because of the manure they had up underneath. It also would help with their profits. See, pig farms, according to the US EPA, they're not limited based on the number of pigs. They're limited based on the amount of manure they produce. So if they can find a better way to manage their manure, they can grow their farms safely, and which would be good for them. And there's also the big issue with PED. I don't know if you've heard it. It's been on BBC, CNN. It's actually a swine disease that's spreading across the nation. It's been 2 or 3 other countries already. It's got an 80 to 100% pig mortality, and it's expected to increase pig prices by 15 to 25%. And it spreads simply by manure contact. So these hog farms, you can imagine they have manure all over the place. So all it takes is just for a piglet just to touch one of these infected manure pockets, and all of a sudden they have disease and they can't get rid of it. 80 to 100% die. So it's spreading across the whole nation. So here we really think we'd be able to help out farmers and why they'd be interested in going with us. So why would the industry care? Why do they want an asphalt made of swine manure? Well, basically it's 80% cheaper to produce to take swine manure to an adhesive rather than crude oil to an adhesive. Now, it's also less emissions. Our product is 60% less pollutant. So it's safer for workers, and you're cutting down an incredible amount of carbon coming out from petroleum emissions. And it's also 20% more crack resistant. So you say, well, that's not very much. Well, that to the asphalt industry would save roughly $10.2 billion in maintenance costs, preventing these cracks from happening. Now, I didn't make all this stuff up. We've actually had testing all across the United States in different institutions, and they've all come to the fact that we were able to reduce asphalt cracking. And you say, well, what's a big deal like that? Well, asphalt cracking actually is the reason why you have potholes. So every time you see a pothole, there's an asphalt crack before that. So we really be able to help the asphalt industry in this area. So, like you say, we've got a lot of interest from other areas. Smithfield Farms, one of the largest pig producers in the United States, they sent us this letter, and they're willing to provide any support and assistance to get this project up and running. We've also received a letter of intent from 2 of them being the top asphalt distributors in the United States. This one actually wants a pre-buy purchase of 90,000 tons. They're willing to buy it now as long as we can get the product out to them. So we got a lot of interest both on supply and demand, which makes us really unique. So you might be wondering, is this really possible? Can we really take swine manure and make something incredibly valuable? That's not even real. You're just kidding. Why are you saying this? Well, yeah, it is real. So you're saying, well, how do we do it? Well, basically we take the same process the Earth uses to make fossil fuels, using heat and pressure. However, it's taken years and years. We reduce it to about 20 minutes. So to get it a little more scientifically, our research was funded by a $1.8 million NSF grant. And this is actually a molecule of swine manure. All right, so it's incredibly complex, a bunch of stuff going on. So what our process does, we simplify it to simpler compounds, and then we reconstruct it based on the properties we want. So we can be able to improve consistency, which can't be done with petroleum products, and makes our product applicable to different areas because we can change the properties of what we want. And it's a product. All right, so from a supply chain standpoint, we actually have 3 50,000 plus size hog farmers that said, hey, we heard about your product, and you know what, if you come on our facility, we'll give you the land, we'll give you anything you need. Basically, we want you to set up because then they don't have to deal with their manure management. So we'd be setting up there. Smaller farms in the area will be able to bring their manure to us for a small tipping fee. They have to transport it off their farm anyway, so we'd be able to give them a steady supply of where to bring it. And as far as our products, we'd be able to sell to OEMs, adhesive industries, and to actually one of our byproducts is a fertilizer, which is actually really, really valuable. And we actually have 3 customers already ready for each one of them as soon as we get them out. So the team consists of myself, a lot of others. We actually have a 2nd generation hog farmer. We got 110 years of combined experience in the agricultural and constructive industry. So we are Adhesive Alliance. Let's turn what speaks today into what sticks tomorrow. Thank you guys very much.
stack up against using pig manure for fuel, like in biogenerators? Great yield.
Yes, actually, the project is to actually take swine manure, and in Illinois, they use it as a fuel. However, because swine manure has so much liquid, could you actually leave some of those up? Yeah, it's because it's got so much liquid, it's really hard to convert it to a fuel. It's actually the worst one as far as converting it to natural gas and such. So actually, the business is actually going bankrupt now because they can't, it's not worth using it as a fuel because it takes so much energy to turn it into what could be used as fuel. So.
You're going to be selling to asphalt providers, and it's going to have less cracking. But if I was an asphalt manufacturer, wouldn't I want to continue cracking to keep myself in business? So, I mean, what's the potential reaction to that?
Right. Well, actually, what's unique, one of the slides, we actually were able to use with our product, because of reduced cracking, we can actually use more recycled materials. So recycled materials such as recycled asphalt pavement, recycled asphalt shingles. I'm going to try to go through it really quick. So here, actually, this would be why the asphalt, because here, if you notice here, this is without any recycled materials here, and this is with simply 15% recycled materials. And we added 5% of our product and without any of our product. So if you notice here, this is 15%, this is 45%. If you notice here, 15% without any of our product, cracked at this temperature. 45% with our product, cracked at this temperature. So we added 30% more recycled materials. We got the same cracking performance as only 15. So when they sell this product, they can say, hey, yeah, we have this product here that lasts longer, but you can actually add more recycled materials to it, which will reduce your costs and reduce your aggregate usage, and you have to not use as much virgin material. So it has a green label on it. Because there isn't any adhesive really that can derived without being derived from crude oil.
Is there any part of your strategy that's public policy working with state and local governments?
Yes, actually. I don't know if I have it here, but we've actually been contacted by our state senator, State Hagan, and she got us in contact with NC DOT and Massachusetts DOT and Illinois DOT, and they said as soon as we have enough material, they're willing to put out a strip because we passed all their DOT specifications. So there's really a big push here because swine manure is just such a big issue because we have just so much of it generated each year. So yeah, policy issues, we're trying to follow that lead.
So you've heard some of the other presentations, and many of them have very clear social impact values. How would you summarize, other than saving the lives of piglets, or if that is, summarized that way, what is the real social implication, not purely economic, not purely value-driven science, what's the social implication of your company?
Yeah, usually I have a partner here switching the slides when we get questions. Yes, so the big issue here is the way they deal with manure now. So the only two ways they can deal with it is basically putting it in lagoons, storing it over time and letting it dissolve over years, and then scraping the bottom, but still you have a problem there. And the other issue is using it as a fertilizer. But because swine manure has so much liquid, when they put it on fields, that it actually turns into runoff. And then that runoff turns into lakes, rivers, and streams and causes these huge algae blooms. So from that respect, because there's so much manure, fields are being over-fertilized 9 times the amount. So that's getting into groundwater, that's getting into going into the Mississippi River, all those big issues. And also how toxic swine manure is. If you look at here, 200 CFU, this is actually water requirements for recreational. So you can't be above this toxicity limit. This over here, 2,000, this is actually the water level it has to be before it can be treated. Swine manure is 6.5 million, so it's highly, highly toxic. If you even get just a little bit in your water, it's really deadly. Actually, in Chile, it was on CNN. What happened was this hog farm, they weren't taking care of their manure properly, and the manure was going into actually people's drinking water. And what happened was people were actually getting sick, and the producers weren't really doing anything about it. So the government actually had to go in there and kill half of the pigs with their weapons and stuff, just so that they could reduce the amount of manure so that it wouldn't go into people's drinking waters. So swine manure is just highly, highly toxic, and it's, like I say, the other slide here, turn really quick. So the United States alone, we generate 6 billion gallons of swine manure. Europe, 7 million. China, 30 million. So you see, swine manure is a big issue, not just for us, but for everybody else. And with something being that highly toxic, the chances of it getting into somebody's drinking water is just It's really easy.
Thank you. Thank you. Bioadhesive Alliance from North Carolina. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our last presentation. And back to being local from Aliso Viejo, California, Give Some. Oh, you got it.
Remember when you were a kid and you used to pretend to be a superhero? You put that cape on and you'd fly around the room and you'd save the world and you'd make a difference. And I bet you there's many of you here today who still wish that you could be a superhero. I know I do. My name is Sean Weehan and I'm the co-founder and operations director for Give Some LLC. 5 years ago, my friends and I decided that we had a little superhero in us and we wanted to go out and make a difference. We formed an organization called the Future Leaders of our community. And the idea was that we'd take all the young professionals that were out there and we would match them with their time, talent, and treasure with charities, thus bridging the gap between the business world and the nonprofit world. And over the years, we've had some extraordinary success. We partnered with 150 charities, and we've given 220,000 hours of service to their causes. And over the years, we met some incredible people. In fact, individuals, charities, and businesses that also are superheroes. And what we've discovered is that there's a lot of superheroes out there. In fact, in the United States, there's 62.6 million volunteers that contributed to social causes this last year. And there was 20 billion plus that was donated from corporations to nonprofits. And get this number, $416.5 billion were donated to the U.S.'s 1.5 million charities. That's an incredible amount of good that's going on. And we really are trying to address complex social problems in our community. However, I believe we can do better. Let me share with you a story. Just this last weekend, on Saturday, my friends and I decided to go volunteer with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation down in Dana Point. And like so many other charities we've been to in the past, when we arrived, they signed us in on an Excel spreadsheet as volunteers. And when we went to the registration table, they had long lists of names, and we had to cross things off as people arrived. And then people were purchasing raffle tickets, and they were purchasing auction items. And we were literally taking their credit cards and using old stampers, impression stampers. And all that has to be brought back to the office where the CF staff has to data entry, and they have to put it into their CRM systems. And it's a long, tedious process. And you know, every charity has this dilemma. It's a tedious thing where they don't have technology that all works together. And we at Give Some decided that we could help this. We could make a difference. We could help them be more efficient. And we could speed them along in terms of solving the problems that are facing our society. So what is Give Some? Give Some works with individuals, charities, and businesses. And it gives them a tool so that they can perform their charitable purposes and multiply their efforts to do good. For individuals, every one of us here, when we use Give Some, we'll be able to find volunteer opportunities in the community. We'll be able to find events like golf tournaments and galas. And it'll track our philanthropic work. It'll tell us how many hours we've worked in the community, how many dollars we've donated, and the charities we supported in the course of the year. For charities, it's an amazing fundraising and volunteer recruitment platform. And more than anything, it will allow you to sell tickets, bring in donations, it'll allow you to process raffle items, and it creates a huge amount of data so that you have an idea of all of your supporters are doing. And finally, for businesses, it'll allow you to track your employees so that you can implement your charitable policies, especially matching funds. Why is this important? Well, every nonprofit out there has to deal with technology. And Give Some is the only solution that's all-in-one that brings together individuals, charities, and nonprofits together under one philanthropic roof. It also is a one-stop shop so that it eliminates all the other technologies so that you can focus on your time and funds on what is really important, your mission and vision as a nonprofit. Every one of us has a superhero within us. And some of you maybe next year will decide that you want to volunteer with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. You may decide that you want to volunteer, and if you do so, you'll do it on Give Some. People on the Give Some network will see what you're doing, and maybe some of them will be inspired to do the same. You'll purchase an auction item or a donation, and you'll do it through Give Some, frictionless. And your workplace will see that you've made that donation, and they will be able to implement their charitable policies and their matching funds, and the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation will make more money, and they will have more time to focus on their needs and their purpose, which is to save the lives of children who are suffering from lung degenerative diseases. You know, it feels good to do great work in the community, and GiveSome is going to help us all be a superhero. I'm Sean Weehan, and on behalf of GiveSome, thank you.
You are a team. So you can keep it.
All right.
So, great presentation. I just want to know, what's the strategy for getting this app on as many devices as possible? What's the biggest challenge about that? How do you want to go about doing that?
We have an outstanding development team. Like any other website, if you start with just a website, which is what it'll be a web, and it'll be online on your typical browser on your computer. And in order to get it from there onto your phone in your pocket, we're either going to have to build an app. In the meantime, our coders will make it so that you can see it easily on your phone. And I forget the word, but they shrink it down so that it works. So that it'll look different on maybe an iPad or an iPhone or a Samsung product, whatever it may be. That will be a process. We'll have to raise more funds to actually get it turned into an app. But right now, it'll be a web-based app. Yeah.
How do you plan on working with the back office systems of, like say, cystic fibrosis or whatever? Are you going to be the credit card processor to gather that information? And how do you feed that information into whatever system they have, whether the QuickBooks or whatever?
Correct. GiveSome will operate within its own system, but we'll create APIs so that it can operate with, let's say, Salesforce or other CRMs or other systems that they may be using. We will do all the payment processing within the system itself. We have a company called Stripe, and they will do the interface or that in-between middleman that helps process those, and GiveSome will be the front end, middleman, and then it'll go to that charity of choice, whatever it may be.
You described $300,000 as the first year of revenues. What percentage of that do you see from which you have 4 customers, I guess, 2 of which don't seem to be paying for the service? So the other 2...
Correct. How does it play out? Well, we came up with that number initially by looking at the flock resources that we have. So Future Leaders of our community has 150 relationships in just the local Orange County community. We have a lot of volunteers that initially would be using that product. Within the first year, they would have it. We would then expand into LA and San Diego. And that would give us, let's say, 350 some odd users. And those users would bring in the initial revenue. And that revenue is enormously generated through payment processing. Ultimately, it would be subscriptions through the huge amount of data that it brings on, and businesses that are using it as well. I don't know if that fully answers your question.
So is it mostly charities that are generating that revenue for you, or businesses?
Both. So charities are already paying for a number of things in the technology world. Every time they use Eventbrite to do tickets, or anytime they use payment processing or Stripe, let's say at an auction item or whatever, they're paying for that. That's already out in the marketplace. We would come in at market rate. The same thing. We're just offering so much value added more for that charity. They're already spending money. We're just going to come in basically with our relationships that we already have with them and have them be using our product.
How do you deal with privacy issues and proprietary nature of people's givings? Not everyone wants their information shared, certainly with their employer as to who they're donating to. And how do you then deal with competing charities not wanting information that they're able to gather from one to be able to go to some other charities somehow, or be able to be tracked with a relative amount or anything like that?
Absolutely, David. Thank you for asking that question. It's a very good question. We get that a lot. You know, when you start with Facebook, you're kind of open to the world when you get in there. When you start with GiveSome, it'll be total privacy. It'll be up to the individual to whether or not they want to share their charitable giving. They can share it with just the charity that they're working with, or they can put it out public. You may want to let everybody know that you support the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation or the American Red Cross or a small local charity, and you want to proclaim that to the world. Now, other people want to be more anonymous, and they just might want to use the system to track their own philanthropic work internally, and they would be able to do that.
So, how much traction do you have right now? People saying we will absolutely, we want to run with this thing. When does it start? How much interest?
So we've partnered with 150 charities locally, and they all want it. There's not one single charity that has said to me, nah, I don't like the idea. Every one of them is in need. And if you take that across the United States of 1.5 million charities, and you take that into all the NGOs that are across the world, we're going to be doing some real good. We're excited about it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That's Give Some, folks, from Aliso Viejo, California. Well, folks, boy, wasn't that impressive? How about a round of applause for all of our wonderful presenters? Wonderful keynote speaker today, and we're very pleased to have with us here Shaheen Sheikh Sadal. Shaheen is the founder of S Law Group, a business transactional law firm focused on servicing startups and social entrepreneurs. The firm's mission is to shift the American ethos on business by servicing clients who make social responsibility and profitability go hand in hand. Prior to starting S, Shaheen was a professional recording artist signed to India's largest record company. After celebrating S's 5th anniversary this year, Shaheen is preparing to launch her next business centered on healthful cooking. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shaheen Sheikh Sadal.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me here and for allowing me, that's not the company, but for allowing me to have, to be a part of your inaugural Orange County Social Entrepreneurship Competition. So a little bit about myself. As you heard, I actually started this whole process because I actually wanted to be a lawyer. There's not too many of us who can say that. When I was a kid and I went to law school, and right out of law school, I became a professional musician, so much for wanting to be a lawyer. And along the way, I truly loved what I was doing and the creativity of that aspect. And I only got back into the practice of law because I needed to finance more of my music. And I found myself in the back office of a law firm, researching and writing for the other attorneys in the office, until a new partner came into the law firm and came over to me and said, "Oh, what are you doing back there?" And I said, "Oh, I'm here researching and writing, so just shoot that over to me. Don't send me to court or anything, or turn me into a lawyer." And he said, "Well, that's a waste." And he became my mentor. And for 3.5 years, he trained me to be a lawyer. And what he did was he re-inspired me and reignited my love for the law. And then I quit. Mostly because I was doing work that I had no personal connection to. I mean, I was helping wealthy businesses fight each other in court for money they probably both owed each other, and I couldn't stand behind that. And I left, I took a year off, I wrote another album, I traveled, and then I called up all my law school mates and I said, "Well, what are you guys doing now? What do you think I should do?" And in that process, a friend of mine had said, "If you start your own practice, I would be your client." And it kind of sparked something for me, and I said, "Well, I believe in what he's doing, and maybe I could take this very powerful tool and kind of wield it for good, right?" I didn't know anything about something called social entrepreneurship. All I knew was I had something that was of use in this country, and I could actually put it to good. And I had spent a lot of years working in the nonprofit sector. And I thought, well, maybe I could just kind of marry these things that I loved. I really did love practicing law. And if I could help people that were doing something for the community, lifting the community, that would be an exceptional use of this law degree. And out popped S Law Group. And 5 years later, I'm really happy to be standing here on stage talking to you about some of the lessons that I've learned in the last 5 years about committing myself to the movement of social entrepreneurship. So with that comes this little talk for you guys. The do's of doing good. Here they are: imagine, actualize, and engage. So you know a little bit about why I'm here and why I'm standing here, but then I have to ask you guys, why are you here? So to me, you guys are the future heroes. You're not going to have like a movie made out of you or a comic book after you guys, named after you guys. But to me, you guys are the new heroes. You have the potential to redefine what we call being a hero in this community. And so to me, well, what makes what makes a hero, right? So you give yourself to something that's much larger than yourself. You're willing to forego conventional wisdom. You're willing to take the path that's less traveled, and that's all of you. And there's something so dynamic and powerful about that. It's not an ego thing, right? We're not talking about, something we want this sort of accolade of being a hero, but I mean, really, can we make our communities better? Can we actually help uplift them? And you have this unique opportunity, and for the first time, this generation of entrepreneurs really is marrying the best of both worlds, right? You take all of the social good that we can do if we put our collective energy together, married with the best of free market endeavors and entrepreneurship, and find their nexus and really change the world in a sustainable manner. That's pretty incredible. So that way, I'm very honored to be standing here before you guys. So for me, as the future heroes of our communities and of our society, you guys offer the best of everything, right? The meeting point of the heart, of the mind, of courage to do what it takes to get something done. And that's a pretty incredible space. And if you ever find yourself, while you're going through your endeavors, if you ever find yourself kind of getting lost, I would ask you and invite you to just come back to here, right? Where do we meet? These three things, our mind, our heart, and our courage. That's really what you guys stand for. At least that's how I've been seeing it from my vantage point for the last 5 years. So the first thing I wanted to say is, the first of the three of the do's is to imagine or to reimagine, right? So that's such an important part of this process, is to have the ability to be creative in your thinking, as I've seen it the last 5 years, and I've watched my young entrepreneurs from, an idea in their garage to now getting through their second, third rounds of funding. So much of what I've witnessed is their ability to be the most dynamic, creative thinkers, right? Willingness to think absolutely outside of the box when they're looking at something that seems insurmountable from where we stand today, right? What reality says is the problem, and the tools that we think we have to solve those problems, and they haven't been solved yet. I mean, this is what marks, to me, a social entrepreneur, that you have this incredible gift and imagination for creative thinking. I'm going to cheat here for a second. So I pulled up a few quotes for you guys about imagination that I thought was really compelling and inspiring. So reality can be beaten with enough imagination, by Mark Twain. So that's the point that I first made. But what we see today is what we think is true reality. But if you can actually use your imagination, we can actually beat what reality says. And I think that's compelling and part of what I see in social entrepreneurship. Logic will get you from A to Z, and imagination will get you everywhere, Albert Einstein. So that's pretty inspiring as well. We can stay in our mind and get really locked in, or we can take a step back and kind of get creative and use the power of imagination to think about where we could possibly go. Without leaps of imagination or dreaming, we lose the excitement of possibilities. Dreaming, after all, is a form of planning. Gloria Steinem. And that's pretty incredible too, right? To think that in the process of dreaming for solutions to some of the world's most pressing problems, it's actually just a form of planning. Business planning, maybe, right? That's pretty compelling to me. So not with the imagination we dare for a new reality. So can you use your imagination first? For what social issues can you use your imagination? What are we willing to take on, right? Water is a commodity, the food crisis or food crises, depending on how you look at it, climate change, unemployment, particularly with youth, both in the developing and the developed nations. And these are seemingly huge, huge issues we're facing. And I think, and I fully believe, and that's why I stand here today, that these are problems we can actually tackle with our imagination and our collective efforts. So in that, one of the things that I think is important is I see my social entrepreneurs when they come to me, are your battles big enough? Like some of us, we kind of get afraid to kind of really we have a passion about something, right? But are we picking the battle that's really big enough? So I appreciate it can feel insurmountable, but if you need to pick those battles that are big enough that matter, but small enough to win, right? As Jonathan Kossel says. So to me, that's really one of the biggest issues that we see as social entrepreneurs. Here you guys are facing really key issues that you feel passionate about. But find the big version of what you think, and don't limit yourself in any way. Be willing to climb Everest. It may seem impossible, and not everyone does it, but it's still possible, right? So a good friend of mine, Alan Holberg, when I told him I was doing this talk, he said, you got to put Frank Underwood in there. What's a good social entrepreneurship talk without the Frank Underwood quote? But it sparked something in me because, so if you don't like how the table is set, turn over the table. Be the disruptor. That's part of our job as social entrepreneurships, is to actually absolutely flip what we think is true on its, upside down. And the other thing that struck me about this and why I thought Alan was ingenious when he recommended this was what I see in my time here with my clients. Take a little bit of Frank Underwood's kind of edgy and nasty spirit with you. Like as social entrepreneurs, I think that we're so conscious about doing the right thing all the time, which is awesome. But sometimes you also have to be willing to set those limits and boundaries. And be a little bit, that fighter in you has to be there. And I say that with, clients who I've watched kind of get pushed over a little bit because we're always trying to find the win-win, and so am I, definitely trying to find the win-win. Sometimes my win is just a tiny bit more important as a social entrepreneur, and that's something that I want to say. You have to balance both those things as you're going through your process. The second thing is actualizing, and I could probably spend, an entire 30, 45 minutes, hour a day on this topic. It's something I feel very passionate about. Like when I started I could have become a nonprofit attorney, but I decided not to become a nonprofit attorney. I decided to focus on for-profit companies, and there was a real reason behind that. In large part because to me, that's the sustainability. That's the way to create to actualize this dream of actually shifting our social problems today, is to have a mechanism by which you can monetize this thing and it's self-sustaining and it's self-generating. I've been in nonprofit work for years and I think there's true value in it, but I think that there's a time and a place for it. So to me, sustainability, the endurances of systems and processes, and when I say nonprofit, I mean sort of the nonprofit model of donation systems. Not to say that nonprofits couldn't be social entrepreneurs, obviously. But I had years ago I was watching this movie called For the Love of Water. Anybody see that movie? Okay, it's a really incredible movie. You should check it out. It's a documentary about the water crisis we face in the world. Anyways, if you're watching this, there's a scene with a scientist named Dr. Ashok Betgill, and he talks about he's come up with this very elegant, efficient UV light filtration system for water purification. And in that scene where they're interviewing him, he's talking about how he remembers his aunts and uncles crying because his cousins were dying from waterborne illnesses. And he started to cry in that scene. It was very compelling when you watched him, because clearly something that had happened to him when he was a child had affected him so much that he spends his entire professional career trying to solve issues just like this so that other children and other parents don't have to go through what he went through as a kid. And so I wrote to him. I was so moved by that moment in the movie, and I wrote to him and I said, Dr. Betgill, I just wanted to say, I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing in the world. And we started talking back and forth. And one of the things we talked about was, I had charity water. And I said, oh, Dr. Betgill, there's this at that time relatively new nonprofit. And he had said to me, he instantly wrote back and said, Jean, nonprofits, again, talking about the kind of donation-based model, they have a time and a place. And they're meant to be sort of the gap between what the government should be doing and what the private sector can do. And that spirit helped him create a technology that allows one person to get 10 years of water for $1 a year. And that's incredible. And that's real impact. And I think that's true for that's the truth of social entrepreneurship. The last thing is engage. And I want to say one thing about sort of actualizing and engaging. These things are like chicken and egg. I'm not sure what you have to do first. I have thoughts on any given day of what comes first. But really what engage means is the idea of being empathetic to your customer base, right? To really understand what is it that they need from you. So I'll give you an example of a client of mine in venture. When they started off, they were sort of the cousin of Kiva. They were providing microfinancing loans. You know, so you and I could hop on the website, give $10, and then eventually that entrepreneur would pay you back the $10. That was the model that they had. And Shivani is one of those entrepreneurs that, she loves to be in the field. This girl is flying around the world all the time in the most remote parts of India and Africa and Mexico, in these huts with her micro-entrepreneurs, and she's asking them all the time, is this working for you? What can we do better? So a couple of years ago, we were all sitting in a boardroom together talking about the business model and whether it was working. And she said, you know, we're not really giving them a long-term solution, sort of band-aiding what they need. Really the issue is they don't have credit scores. And they can't go to banks because they don't have credit scores. They're not considered a credit-worthy risk. So in the process of all this, she came up with technology. It's really simple. She realized that her entrepreneurs were kind of keeping data on basically like the backs of envelopes and brown paper bags of what they were selling every day, what their costs were, and nothing was kind of organized or gave them kind of like a trajectory of where they would go or where they had come from. And so she started asking them to text her these things every day. And she started kind of putting them in a little database. And she realized, oh my goodness, they're actually able to manipulate this data and come up with credit scores for these guys. And she actually found not just a solution to sort of what they needed day to day, but a long-term solution for a problem. And now she has banks in India, for example, giving credit and debt to these micro-entrepreneurs. So she's not having to come here asking us for $10. They actually have credit scores now, and they can walk into a bank and they can get a little loan for a microloan for their businesses. So that's an incredible thing, and that came from her being willing to sit down and really listen to with empathy, right? That's really what this is about, empathy for what your customer base is going through. And in that sense, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure whether create or actualize or engage comes first. You know, do you create the product, then you kind of figure out what they need, or do you figure out what they need to create the product? Maybe chicken or egg, and you have to try both. So yeah, my friend Alan, he's a branding expert, and he and I have gone back and forth on this, because I'm always talking about, you know, what's the monetization mechanism, and he's always talking about, well, what's the brand? What's the story that a company is telling? And he has this thing he always asks people in an audience, can anyone tell me what outside in versus inside out? He actually says, can anyone tell me what OIVSIO is? And of course, nobody can. But does anyone have a guess? No one who's a branding person? Shy, you're shy, okay. Outside in versus inside out means, you know, a lot of times I guess in the marketing world, you take a bullhorn and you start shouting at your customers, this is what you're gonna like, this is what's gonna make you feel like you're a better person in the world. And that was sort of an old model, an outdated model, and now really what they say is really to have, to create the trust that you want in your customers and to have that brand value is to listen with empathetic ears and listen from the outside in, to take a step out of your organization and see what do they want, what do they need. So I leave you with that because that's actually what creates trust in your brand, and trust builds loyalty, and loyalty builds sustainability to your venture, and that sort of feeds the process. So when you're thinking about that, what's my story, and how do I tell my story of this company, this is something I would encourage you to really think about what the story is from the outside in and not from the inside out. So again, back to this point of when you start to develop your powers of empathy and imagination, the whole world opens up to you. So imagination, engagement with empathy can actually give you the ability to actualize the answers to all these grand social problems that we're trying to take on. So some of the battles we're winning, or we've won. I guess I found a quote recently that says, the eradication of polio is the most significant public health achievement of all time, according to the CDC. That's compelling. The ability to plan your family with contraception, the platform to communicate, or access the access to information, the democratization of information on the internet. That's incredible. Those are incredible things that we've been able to achieve, and that all started with someone's imagination of what was possible. So one last thought I wanted to leave you with, because what would a talk be from an Indian girl? She didn't put this Gandhi up there. But I did just want to leave you with this thought of, find yourself in the service of others. And I think one thing from having started us is to really tell you that I've experienced this, for the last 5 years of helping all these social entrepreneurs and kind of being willing to be there with them in the trenches as much as I can. I really have figured out the type of person I want to be in the world and the type of lawyer that I want to be in the world. And there's something very compelling in finding that, who you are and what you stand for. So this is what I wanted to leave you with, and the thought that, our goodness is really reflected in the wellness of others, right? And to take that spirit with you, take that ethos with you when you go about thinking about what you want to do and how what is the next venture that you're going to create that's really going to make the impact in this community and in your community and the world, is to find yourself in that service. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm very humbled to be a part of you guys today and to be a part of this community. And if there's anything I can do to help, or if you have questions, you can feel free to reach me. I'm one of the most accessible people. I really have no problem if you call me out of the blue or email me, and I would love to help you guys with your ventures. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shameen. That was wonderful.
Okay. I think we need one more big applause for the fantastic finalists. I'd like to once again thank our event sponsors, Youth Entrepreneurship Program, California Community Colleges State Chancellor's Office, Schools First Credit Union, Saddleback College Foundation, and of course, University of California at Irvine. I was chatting earlier with a couple of you, and it's surprising that you don't even know what you've won. You don't even know what's going to happen next. So I'm going to go say it again, okay, just so each of you know. When we say that the 11 of you are finalists, are winners, we literally meant that. Each of you, of your group, over the next several months, are going to get a private coach to help you to modify your plans and your business plans and your ideas further. In fact, it's going to be one of the faculty members at Saddleback College. In fact, they should all come up, by the way. Barbara, Scott, Barry, Burbeck is here. Come on up. Who am I missing? Come on up. You're going to be assigned one of them as a coach. In addition, in fact, I would like to have Rich, why don't you come up and talk a little bit about the fellowship program that you're also going to be able to get services with.
Yeah, the idea here is really that getting a cash or getting acknowledged is one thing, but we really want to do everything we can to take you to be investment worthy. So we'll have a financial team working your finances, we'll have coaching working your coaching. It'll be tailored to your unique needs. And then at the end of that process, you'll be introduced to investor networks who would be interested in either nonprofit or for-profit investment. And you'll get a chance to be pitching again, but hopefully this time with the Year of the Investor being heard. So it's a really exciting opportunity, and you really are all winners.
So see, folks, it doesn't end here. We don't want you to end. In fact, frankly, think about it. In September, you're going to be able to go and give much more longer, by the way, a lot longer than 5 minutes, presentations to actual social impact investors, just like it happened in Michigan, where over $1 million has already been given to ideas and businesses and business plans and people just like you. You are going to have the same opportunity in September, and the whole summer you'll have that support. So that's the real reward that you received. In addition, today, of course, we also wanted to help, to recognize and inspire, to give this ability to have this competition, have a People's Choice of Vote, to do a little bit more recognition. So we have 4 awards to give out right now. And like I said, you're all still winners. And first off, we're going to start is with the People's Choice Award. As you know, we all voted, right? Online and on paper. And actually, why don't one of the judges help me here? Who wants to do the People's Choice? Here, have it. So why don't you present it? This year's People's Choice Award is Canine West Kennels. Third. You want to do third place? Come on. Congratulations, K9. In addition, we have 3 awards, and the additional award they get, of course, is the notoriety of being first, second, and third. However, there's also some cash applied to those awards. Third place will receive $2,500 in addition to all this other stuff we mentioned. And third place by our wonderful judges is Della. Oh, wow. That surprises me. You want to do? Second place will receive $5,000, and that's Caribou Solar. Thank you, Michael, for accepting on behalf of Caribou Solar. There you are. I was looking for you, David, actually. And first place will receive a $10,000 plus all the other awards. And I have to look up something here real quick to make sure I can say it right. I know, I just make sure I get it exactly correct. Modern Model Residence School. That shocked me. Yeah, you want to do it? I don't know, what do you think? I don't think we need to give them out, do you? Give me that lunch. Well, as I said, folks, you're all winners, and in a few months from now, you're going to be able to pitch your business plan to social impact investors. Hopefully, this has been a great learning experience for you. We want you to succeed. We want you to do better. We want everybody that applied, the other 50-plus people that put their applications in, or the hundreds of people that are working on plans, please continue it. We're going to do this next year again, so we'll have another Yes, that's worth applause right there, Kathy. And it's our hope that it's not just going to stop in Orange County, California, or Michigan. We want it to be all over the nation, all over the world, and that's what we're really trying to do here. So thank you for being leaders, really leaders in our society, in our world. And with that, that ends our today's program. And we're